Madam Chair, Crissy Noonan with Seven Hills Strategy Group on behalf of Smart Start and LifeSaver. And Senator Sturtevant, to answer your question, the patron is absolutely right. The cost of this is comparable to what we're seeing in Ignition Interlock. It's actually a little bit less because you would have about a $100 install fee. And then following that, you would pay a monthly fee around $120. You're going to see with Ignition Interlock, you have to check in more regularly on a monthly basis to ensure that the system is working correctly, whereas you won't need to do that here. And so there aren't as many fees associated with it. But there's also a provision that says if the court finds you to be indigent, or if you are deemed indigent by DMV, then you can have all or part of the fees and costs associated with the program waived. And that fund is funded by the costs to the manufacturers of these devices. So it's a self-funded program.
Senator Sturtevant.
And I guess along those same lines, I assume, what if somebody only has an older model vehicle? I mean, can this technology be installed on any type vehicle, or does it have to be a newer vehicle? How does that work? Because I guess the question is, if somebody is sentenced to this, but they don't have a newer vehicle that can accept the technology, what happens in their situation?
Madam Chair, Senator Sturtevant, that perhaps VASAP could talk to the types of vehicles that Ignition Interlock can currently be installed on, but I would say that this program and device would model that program. There's also language in the bill that says, as part of the regulatory process that VASAP will undertake if this bill is successful, that one of the considerations is that the, let's see. Here that says that it has to be used on a range of different vehicles. So in other words, this can't just be a device that only works with a Toyota or a Honda. It would have to be used on a range of different vehicles. I'm not sure if, we have farm use vehicles, which aren't held to the same standards as vehicles that have to get inspected yearly. But my guess and my pretty good thought here is that this would work on nearly all vehicles that are roadworthy currently.
Thank you very much. Senator DeSteph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Hope, thank you for bringing the bill, and thank you for answering my litany of questions earlier today on this. I had multiple concerns. I had a concern from the market standpoint of how many manufacturers are there, and I believe there's 7. We talked about the cost of this and then what would happen if somebody couldn't afford it, because we want to make sure that if we're putting something in to help somebody who's otherwise on a restricted driver's license. On the issue with the vehicle, we have time to research that, Senator Sturtevant, before the floor. And that might be a good one, because if we look at the older technology, so basically anything that operated with a carburetor-based engine, but even when you had cruise control then, it would limit the fuel going to that carburetor. And it was between the carburetor and accelerator in there, they would do that. So I think that could be, but I'm actually going to look at that before it hits the floor, just in case. But I wasn't in support of this originally. You guys have turned me to your side on this. I may throw up an abstention to look into a little bit more on this, but you have convinced me that after answering my litany of questions, and I'm glad you, and I'm not sure if you did this in your testimony or not, Delegate Hope, but where you talked about the fact that the court orders this, but it's like the interlock where the program commissioner basically is the one who could restrict a license from there for noncompliance, because they're the one administering it after a court already says what the punishment is. So I appreciate you guys bringing this forward, and I appreciate you answering my litany of questions on this one. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I agree. I think this is a great idea with the fatalities that we've had on the roads. And I know going up and down 95, quite often I am passed by someone who is driving in excess of 100 miles per hour. So with that, we will entertain. Is there any, I haven't even taken testimony. People in favor of the bill, after we've all been talking for so long. People in favor of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Crissy Noonan on behalf of Smart Start and LifeSafer. And thanks very much to the patron for his diligent and hard work on this bill. The bill you will hear is supported by a number of safety advocates, and I don't want to get in their way, but I just want to underscore a couple of items that Delegate Hope said, which I think are really important. We know people are speeding worse than ever, and that it's leading to deaths and fatalities nationwide and in Virginia. We also know, and the data shows, that when somebody's license is suspended, over 70% of the time they continue to drive. And if they don't drive, they're not going to work or to appointments or driving their kids to sports or doctor's appointments. This technology is proven and has been in fleet vehicles for decades, and it attacks the problem of speeding without limiting the privilege of driving. I also want to point out that this bill has a delayed effective date, which gives VASAP a year to work on the regulations. VASAP has been around since 1986. They are absolutely the right entity to manage this program. And this just gives judges another tool in the toolbox. It gives citizens who would lose their license because of DMV demerit points an option to go into this program rather than having their license suspended. And Senator Sturtevant, I was able to find the language that I was referencing before, but you asked about what types of vehicles this would work with, and the regulations would require that a system would have to operate reliably over the range of motor vehicle environments or motor vehicle manufacturing standards. So that's clarifying that this can't just work on one type of vehicle. So with that said, we would respectfully ask for your support, and thank you so much for the time.